Respectfully, what job do you think people are overpaid? OK Suckadash 1552 said. The 8 vice-chancellors of my university that never do anything. Thoazardafid said. I've worked in one institution where this was incredibly true. The more recent one, while I am sure there are some departments where it was true, it was far more true of faculty than staff. The faculty were part of a union, and moving them around was damn near impossible. So instead I was one of 4 people in an office doing the work of about 6 or 7, which then got downsized to 3 last fall, followed by a pay cut and elimination of 401k matching. In the 4.5 years that I worked there, 2 of the positions saw like 6 people cycle through them. My boss, who I loved, was the one that got eliminated, and I just left recently, so I guess fuck you the poor sods left trying to understand anything with no historical knowledge. Definitely mentioned burnout as a reason for all of their turnover. Sucks too. We're all there for the students. Very few staff members at a college got into that work for any other reason. Wally Peyote said. I heard that as a joke. A Baptist minister, a Catholic priest and a televangelist are playing golf and start to discuss how they decide how much of their money they keep and how much goes to God. The minister says he draws a circle, throws the money in the air and whichever money lands in the circle he gives to God. The priest says he does the same thing, but he gives God all the money that doesn't land in the circle. The televangelist smiles and says he throws the money up in the air and whatever God wants he keeps. Maybe a dildo licker said. I'm not religious anymore, but when I was a kid, my parents were pretty devout. I remember our preacher was a really nice guy and had a super successful construction business with this huge house and lots of cars. However, there were multiple times where my parents couldn't pay a bill or couldn't afford groceries and he covered it no problem. Nobody in his church had to ask. If he found out you were struggling, next week his wife would pop by for a visit with like $300 of groceries. They were good people. Spa-Deadpool14 said. I come from a small community where not many people have a lot of money. If someone in the church needs help, the pastor is more than willing to help, along with many of the members. My uncle actually just lost his house to a fire and the pastor told him about a freezer full of frozen foods at his house specifically for people that need a meal and that there was no need to ask to take a meal. There are good churches out there, unfortunately the bad ones are just louder. Spartan Kelly said. The Bible even specifically teaches that flamboyant giving is meaningless, no matter how much is given, because the intention is self-centered. Calling attention to yourself when doing a good or generous deed nullifies any moral upstanding you may have. It's one reason I'm super cynical when it comes to all those videos of people filming themselves showing off good deeds. Monolith Rand said. When I was a kid we were told stories of charity and giving, usually around Christmas time. A poor kid travels through the snow to give his few pennies to the school collection only to find out the collection is for him. Things like that. These days, social media is our storytelling medium. Young people see good deeds and want to copy them. That's not a bad thing and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it shouldn't be judged negatively. Doing good things for others feels wonderful. It's never going to be completely selfless for the simple fact that it feels good. If you make a video and it influences more good deeds, well, that's a cascade of good upon good. I don't believe that there's anything subtractive about wanting to spread joy or sharing our modern stories or charity and empathy. Being boastful is obnoxious and can hurt people. Obviously, don't do that. But let people gifts inspire others. I like the videos. They always make me smile or cry a little. Material Individual said. The Bible's a pretty big book, and the church doesn't encourage you to read it end to end. And it's not a particularly engaging story, or laid out that way. The church reads it to you. Your pastor is supposed to interpret it and show you the true meaning of sections. The way the church controls the Bible's narrative. They tried to ban the printing press because it put the Bible in people's hands. The Quran is not translated, and you have to be some scholar to be able to actually have a valid interpretation of it. It's a common tactic of control. And besides, it's not like your typical televangelist audience member reads much. I like to read. I have a Bible that I tried to read through. It's unapproachably convoluted and confused. But there are parts that are especially important in this case. https://www.biblegateway.com/passage /? Circa quals Matthew plus 6% 3a1 -34 ampersand version or Walsers v. Matthew 6, giving to the needy, in the Lord's Prayer. 6. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Material Individual said. 2. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. 3. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, for so that your giving may be in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. 5. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites. For they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. 6. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Lay up treasures in heaven. 19. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. 20. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. 21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. 24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Obviously this last part is what televangelists use to impoverish those who are devoted, to the benefit of their own pockets. Medical welder said. Maybe in the Middle Ages. From my current experience of going to many different Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox and non-denim churches, almost all of them want you to read the Bible. They literally give them out for free for this purpose. For people to read it. Religious leaders profiting off of a denomination's lack of literacy was more during the times of medieval Renaissance Europe and the Crusades. In the Christian world you don't see this anymore, since most of the Christian world is literate. The only exception I can give is Jehovah's Witness. They are only allowed to read the translation of the Bible interpreted by the Watchtower organization. Most other forms of Christianity do not care if your Bible is NIV, KJV, NKJV, NLT etc., as all are based on the ancient Greek, Hebrew and Aramaic translations. Just with differing language due to time period. Most churches, the leaders, pastors, priests or whatever they may be called have a formal education in theology. Their services of reading the Bible to you is because they can read through the translation, especially when it comes to slang or idioms which don't translate from Greek, or Hebrew or Aramaic to English properly. For example, the eye of the needle. To a layman it's metaphor. To a pastor or priest or educated individual, they can explain eye of the needle was an actual gate in Jerusalem. That was its name. It was a small gate. If you want to fully understand the Bible, reading it isn't enough. You're going to need a biblical dictionary or encyclopedia with you for context. Medical welder said. In Islam, however, it's a lot more common. I was an American soldier who fought in Afghanistan. We caught quite a few Pakistani teenagers fighting with the Taliban. It was almost always the same story. They were from the federally administered tribal areas, FATA, of Pakistan, which Pakistan has left mostly undeveloped, including formal schooling. Most of the population is illiterate. As a result, from a young age, parents in the FATA send their boys to a madrasa, religious school, because it is free and they think they are doing what's best for this child. A free religious education is better than none at all. Problem is a lot of these madrasas are run by Al-Qaeda and or the Taliban. The mullahs at these madrasas radicalize the boys to do jihad against the Americans and drop them off into the border of Afghanistan. A lot of times the parents don't even know. They think their kid ran away. In the occasional circumstance us forces track down the teenage boy's family, I imagine it's an awkward call. We caught your boy with the Taliban. He isn't coming home anytime soon. Most parents in the US would imagine we caught your boy stealing, vandalizing. Come pick him up from the police station. Different worlds. Sicko Tom said. Yeah. Athletes don't just work 2 hours during the game, and actors can spend months shooting during which they are working constantly. Athletes and actors who are overpaid usually spend years getting to that point and are drastically underpaid for most of that. It would be nice if we valued the efforts of struggling actors and athletes more, even if it was at the expense of the highest paid of them. But a top-grossing film or professional sports game can generate hundreds of millions in revenue, and the people doing the hard part should be compensated well. Aggravating Cupcake Zero said. In addition to the points others have made in the thread already, lots of people forget that acting and being an athlete are not 9-to-5 jobs. They take much more time than that. You're often on the road, away from your family. Actors spend hours memorizing lines and blocking outside of even filming. Athletes spend hours practicing and exercising outside of the actual game. People mostly only see the finished product of all the hours and sacrifice that were put in before. And let's not forget, it was a crapshoot for them to even get to that point in the first place. For every famous actor and athlete that gets paid millions, there were 100 others that failed in the same profession. They overcame that. Dreameth said. Peter Hunt's Dr., born October 9, 1968, is an American animator, film director, screenwriter, producer, voice actor, and chief creative officer of Pixar. 3. He is best known for directing the Pixar animated feature films Monsters, Incorporated. 2001, Up, 2009, Inside Out, 2015, and Soul, 2020, and as a key figure and collaborator at Pixar. He has been nominated for 9 Oscars and has won 3 for Best Animated Feature, for Up, Inside Out and Soul, making him the first person in history to win the category 3 times. He has also been nominated for 9 Annie Awards, winning 6, a BAFTA Children's Film Award and a Hachi Film Award. 4. He has described himself as a geeky kid from Minnesota who likes to draw cartoons. 3. Apple's 799 said. Now, how are we going to control healthcare costs if we don't have a bunch of MBA and MHA folks meeting over Zoom between 9 to 4:30 p.m. to figure out how to make clinicians more efficient, identifying ways to code and bill for all the test services we can provide, and how to wrangle as many dollars out of insurance companies as possible? I mean, 6-figure salary per member of the ever-expanding administration team is totally worth it. That is, who needs 5-6 translators when you can have a director of translation services who speaks no languages and oversees the contract with a vendor that provides tablet translation? Efficiency, right? Umayamanim said. And how to wrangle as many dollars out of insurance companies as possible. I mean, 6-figure salary per member of the ever-expanding administration team is totally worth it. I mean, I know you were being sarcastic, but this is exactly why roles like administrators and medical device salespeople are highly compensated. They directly make the companies they work for more money. Obviously, whether or not that is an ethical issue in that particular field is a different issue. Screwedmcdude said. 1/3 of us healthcare expenditure goes to administration with a per capita expenditure on admin 4x greater than that of Canada. For comparison, the rate of expansion of new administrative positions has also vastly outpaced the growth in clinical patient care positions in recent decades. This shift was to some extent necessary to accommodate changes to our system of private and federal insurance and medical coding, but I think the scale helps illustrate just how bloated that administrative model has become. Stanberg said, politicians, I think, have to be paid a decent salary. If politicians were paid poorly, then it would make it hard to justify running for government if you were not already in a financially secure situation. This would skew representation even more to the wealthy elite than it already is. Don't get me wrong, representation in government is very bad as it is, but paying less is not the answer. UK MP salary is £80k. This is a very good salary, but not mind-blowing. Squirrel said, IDK. We had a bad agent who sold us a shit house and an amazing agent who took her time with us to make sure we got what was right for us. 6 months later she texted me to ask how her daughter was doing and if we were still happy with the house. She also paid for a cleaning lady to come through our old place and clean up before our first showing and bought all 10 of us dinner on moving day. A good agent can be worth every penny. Kelosian said. I've bought and sold a few houses as I've moved around, and having an agent is really nice just to have someone to arrange all the paperwork and track all the deadlines. Having a buffer between you and other party is also helpful. Buyers agents we've used have really put in their time, as we had a really hard time finding our second to last house and must have looked at 40 listings. That said, I'd pay $6,000 for that, not $11,000. Technically you're not paying that amount as the buyer, but the commission is built into the price. Our last house we didn't use an agent and just used a lawyer and saved a lot of money, but it was frustrating to deal with all the issues that came up, and having to deal with the sellers directly was a huge pain in the ass. Zedon62 said, "It depends on the contract and the agent. My cousin is a real estate agent. It's not really a week's worth of work. It's months of work. Like no days off, you have to be on call type of work. Eating dinner with your family and a customer wants to view a house? You better stop what you're doing and go show that house. It's your kid's birthday party and a major customer has cash on hand and wants to buy another house for their vacation home? You best be on the road ready to sell. Also, who do you think preps the houses to sell? Not the owners. The agent is out there taking pictures, putting up the signs, planning open houses, etc." My Forkets one said, "I've read that real estate agents are actually not making a ton of money, right, because they are having to put in so much work to find their clients a house. They're showing people around and putting in offer after offer that keeps getting rejected. I read an article where one agent calculated that he was pulling in minimum wage with all the time he was having to put in. I guess there are some that are making bank though." Stealthy Bastard said, "Politicians, no doubt. Also sports celebrities. I understand why, I just think it's stupid. Edit, people, I get it, these sport figures generate a lot of revenue for their events, and that's why they earn those obscene sums of money. That's not my point. My point is that their skills aren't essential to society's progress, and still they earn a ton more than people dedicated to build, research, or protect save lives. My point is that entertainment shouldn't be more valuable than essential jobs." Redundant Swine said, "Definitely the case in the UK. I used to work for one and their diary was mental. Back-to-back meetings with local and national pressure groups every day, piles of committee reading, constituency visits, portfolio work if they're a spokesperson or shadowing someone, time in the chamber, staff management and HR, surgeries and media work. That doesn't even include the campaigning to actually get re-elected and stuff you need to do to keep your own party happy. I used to have ambitions to get elected of my own, but a few months of seeing what they go through was enough to put me off. Don't get me wrong, there are some bad eggs out there, but I've worked with politicians of all parties and most work incredibly hard for little financial reward and a decreasing amount of respect." Aquar said, "I think you're wrong. I think politicians don't make enough. If they did, there would be actual experts in politics, and not either people who are there to steal, bored successful people, I have nothing against them really, or evil rich people who are there to protect their own interests. And I think it applies to all governmental fields. For example, where I live, average internet security expert earns average of 8,000 in local currency. Meanwhile, about 2 weeks ago you could find government job offer online for 3,000. I want people employed by the country to be the best of the best. Same goes for politicians." Sir Oren said, "It's their job to manage the company, and that includes employee well-being and the management decisions that govern it. Manage the company to profit. Walmart did a massive survey a long time ago which registered 2 major facts. Existing Walmart customers believed that Walmart had absolutely abysmal customer service. Existing Walmart customers didn't give a rat's ass about that, they only cared about low prices. So Walmart identified a major business opportunity, customer service, but because that opportunity had zero impact on profitability, they actually chose to lean in and exacerbate the problem to drive even more profitability. AKA, customers think we're understaffed and unhelpful with 400 associates. Therefore, we're going to cut staff to 200 associates and selectively apply the savings to reduce margin even further on competitive items and pocket the remaining savings. How are they wrong for doing this? If I'm honest with myself, it's not the lack of customer service that keeps me from shopping at Walmart, it's..." Sir Oren said, "Evil company that utilizes slave labor to cut margins. Evil company that uses massive leverage to undercut domestic competitors. The largely rude and gross clientele. The inferior products that dominate their assortment at a low price. The disposability with which they treat their workforce. So the only way Walmart can earn more of my business is to cease existing in anything resembling its global and national scale, enforce a dress code, blow their margins and payroll costs to hell, and shrink their in-store footprint. I've gone all in on treating employees with dignity and respect over the last 2 years or so. I've started seeing the retailer I work for act as a more and more aggressive agent towards workers, customers, and the world at large, despite their clear virtue signaling press releases to the contrary. But at the end of the day, people still shop here. They still shop at Amazon. They still shop at Target and McDonald's and Walmart. They could end it all by making different decisions, but until they do, CEOs are going to do what their business requires. Customers need to demand better treatment of workers. Vote with your wallet. The Engineer 09 said, I will defend realtors for the buyer as a first-time buyer. My wife and I knew nothing about the process and I don't think we would have stood the chance without one. Ours was amazing, took the time to educate us on every step, handled all the deadlines, helped us figure out a good offer, and also acted as a buffer when the seller turned out to be a greedy asshole that tried to slip in last-minute costs the day before closing. I know buyers don't pay their realtor, they get a percentage of the sale, but I don't consider ours to be overrated at all. In today's market I do agree selling realtors are making out well over their worth. However, there's no effort in selling a house today other than just knowing the steps and deadlines. Luchin 212 said, Wounded Warrior Project is just like that. Instead of supplying wounded soldiers with enough painkillers, they send these injured and stout soldiers to see celebrities who they may never have heard of. I have seen too many comments of people who were at the mercy of the WWP talk about how there were never enough painkillers and so little privacy, so many people would die of overdoses or leave another soldier in unbearable pain because their drugs were stolen. Not to mention they have scammed the places that hold their clients for years.